Hey, I'm Paul Sponcia. I'm the CEO of the IT company. All of our videos are really designed for one thing, to help business leaders understand how to align IT with their business strategy so that they can go further faster. Further faster means make more money and have more fun. That's ultimately what we want you to do. So thanks for stopping by. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy.
I'm a healthcare attorney. My name is Ian Hennessey. I've been practicing for coming up on about 14, 15 years now. Started my career as a medical malpractice defense litigator, and over time have transitioned more into the business and regulatory side of healthcare law.
Got it.
So London Amburn is a law firm based out of Knoxville, but we cover a lot of the Southeast. And we are a physician's law firm. So independent medical groups come to us, individual physicians, and we try to be full service as a law firm for their needs. And over the time that I've been practicing law, HIPAA has, evolved from something that was, a part of the practice and a part of healthcare, and has just grown over time to be, much bigger issue, much bigger risk for independent practices and for physicians. And so I'm doing a lot more of it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the
Cool
snapshot view.
Yeah, and just for everybody, we're here to really address the whole concept of healthcare compliance, but try to articulate it in a way to help physicians' practices, physicians, and those who are maybe leading a physician's practice, where that may be a practice manager, a CEO, or potentially a physician on. There's this whole compliance thing, but let's make sure we also understand that there's actually a lot of things that are just good for business. But we've broken this out into four real categories, which is just why is this important. Then we're going to talk about compliance overview at just a broad level, like what is the privacy rule, what is the security rule, and some shared experiences. We're going to talk about this kind of innocuous topic that nobody understands, which is data flow mapping. That sounds very mysterious. And then we're going to just talk about a practical approach to doing this. So let's just jump in. Let's talk about why is this even important outside of the fact that there's just a compliance requirement? Why is this important, and how can we look at it in such a way that helps us kind of turn that lens on making this an advantage and something to protect our flanks?
Yep. I think it's helpful to kind of go back to the origins of HIPAA. It's fascinating to think of. The HIPAA has now been around for 25 years. And it's evolved over time. It started as something mysterious. It's now just part of life for a physician's practice. But the whole idea behind it, right, was that as electronic information, it's hard to get back in your mindset from 1996 how this was kind of cutting edge to have a computer, and to be transmitting, patient information and medical records, and it seemed like this, kind of revolutionary thing, and now it's just part of the air we breathe. It's expected. It's kind of rare that you see a practice that has paper records. Right. They're in storage somewhere. So the idea was, this is great. We want to open up this channel for new innovation, but at the same time protect that information. With great power comes great responsibility, as the phrase is. So that's where it started, and it's an elastic set of laws and regulations in that it adapts to what is expected as far as a standard adapts to the technology as it advances. So what's acceptable in 2004 is not necessarily what's acceptable in 2014, and won't be acceptable in 2024. So, but as time has gone on with that technological advance, the government has looked at compliance and what are practices doing, what are hospitals doing, what are health plans doing to make sure that that data is protected. And as time goes on, they have less patience
Yeah.
With groups for not putting in adequate plans and policies and to address these things, and it's big money, it's big risk to your practice
Right.
if you don't.
Yeah.
If you get tagged, I'll put it this way: I've been on a few panels with some of these OCR investigators. That's the Office of Civil Rights under Department of Health and Human Services, and they've got offices all over the country. The one that covers our area is out of Atlanta.
Okay.
And so I was sitting on a panel with one of these investigators, and I just said, tell me a little bit about the fines. You've got a framework and the regulations. How does that all work? And she said, and I'll always remember this. We look at the practice. We don't want to put them out of business, but we want to make it hurt.
Yeah.
We want to get their attention.
Right.
So this is not something where, this is some kind of violation. That violation's X amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
They will look at this and they will get your attention
Right.
and your wallet.
They're going to assess it proportionate to the issues and the practice
and it is not just the big hospitals. It's not just the big health insurers that are getting tagged. These are practices with 5, 6, 10 physicians that are getting fined over $1 million in some cases. So
crazy to think about. Well, and I like how at lunch we talked about this idea around it's for those who are listening who really pay attention to sports is it's like sports. You don't just show up to the game and like, what are we going to do today?
right.
You have a game plan, and so we talked about the first step is just have a game plan, and what in your mind, what does that look like?
Right. So, you're exactly right. In order to address anything that could be, both positive or negative to your business, you have to have a plan around it. You can't just show up and say, well, I think I'm going to get 100 customers today.
Yeah. Right.
And there's a lot that goes into that. So when it comes to this compliance piece, you have to have an understanding of not only the external risks and factors that are out in the world today, but also your internal vulnerabilities. Where am I weak? Where do we need to have better protection? There is the big secret, big reveal on HIPAA compliance is that there's no easy button.
Right.
You cannot download or find a form. It's no more than a successful coach in college football could go and where's the plan to beat Alabama? Well, if there is one, no one's found that one yet, or at least not an easy one.
Yeah.
And so you have to think about, okay, well, what are what is the opposition going to try to do to me, and then what do I look like? What does my organization look like? And how do we best address those things and try to win? And so, again, technology is meant there to make you hopefully more efficient in the way that you run your business and save costs and help you do a better job for your patients or your customers. Those are all great things. But part of that is you got to play some defense.
Yeah.
And, if you don't, it's talk about a big, potential vulnerability for your company is not only in terms of, legal ramifications, but just the bad press, the break of trust, that would
time,
be
money,
associated with that.
resources, people that don't even want to go to work there versus in people that don't want to go there for medical care. And it's one of the things that you were talking, I was thinking about that I've learned over. I was thinking about this 25. I've been in the IT business for almost 25 years, and specifically working with medical practices for probably 20. Is that medical practices are fascinating to me, similar to law firms, in that it's not people that set out to go into business together. It's not two friends who are sitting around with a great idea and let's create this really great medical practice that does this innovative thing. I mean, that may happen, but generally speaking, you're recruited out of college, you're brought into the firm, there's a track to become partner, and with that seems to come a lack of planning and strategy. This is what I've seen, is that it seems to be that there is generally not a lot of strategy like we would have strategy in our business, where we're planning for what are we going to accomplish, what are our priorities for the year, the quarter, the month, the week. We want to grow by this much and this much, and we want to do these things and improve these things. I just don't see that much. Probably in bigger practices it probably exists, but I think the average practice, I've asked and I just don't see it very much. But it seems to me that everything we're talking about really is part of that. It's like, this is strategy. This is, and that's what one of the messages that I'm trying to get across to people is having a game plan. If you look at the HIPAA compliance concept and the rule and everything, when I look at all those things, I go back to the same thing. Like, this is just good business, and so again, for me, like, one of the things we put down, it's understand and document your business. Well, that's risk assessment, right? Which is a great place to start. I think if you look at business books, and what they tell you to do is a SWOT analysis, right? They say go do a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. That's what a risk assessment is, and we talked about this, like, the number one issue, at least from what I've read in almost every fine, is a lack of attention to the risks. Maybe they did one, but they didn't do anything about it, or maybe they didn't do one at all.
Right. No, I see something similar. I see, with professions, law, of course, medicine, a lot of the focus can be, obviously patient care.
Patient care, yeah.
How's this patient doing? How do we get patient from point A to point B, towards healing, or, whatever the process may be. And then there's this desire, which is natural, to just focus on that, that profession, and the rest of it, is not really the practice of medicine. It's what I've got to do to kind of, to do that.
Yeah.
But it's background. I think increasingly you're seeing more physicians and physician groups that are embracing the technology to, enhance the patient experience, stuff like that. But this is one of those nagging things. You're exactly right. That, okay, so what? It's fun to think about, how can I improve the patient experience? How can I help my patients through technology? It's maybe not as fun to think about, well, where are the risks here? How could this all go wrong? And maybe that's just my instinct as a lawyer. Like, I'm trained to think about, how could this beautiful picture just go wrong? And then, then my goal is, how do we fix it practically, so that we don't get in that situation where we don't.
Risk mitigation.
And so, you're right. I mean, going through, to get back to your sports analogy, you can't just say, well, here's our plan for this game, but we're going to use that for the rest of the season. In fact, we're just going to use it, as an ongoing basis, forever.
Doesn't matter.
Well, the problem with that is you're not thinking really critically about your weaknesses.
Yeah.
You're not noticing when things change. If this were a sport, you have players get older, or you get new players, or whatever. And then how your opposition's changing, how they're adapting to you.
Yeah.
And so it's a different world of, kind of cyber threats now than it was 10 years ago. And then I expect it to continue on.
It's only crazier.
It's funny, when I work with my clients on this, I try to put my, hat on as if I'm like an insurance agent. Like, okay, well, what's changed since the last time we met, in your office? And usually it's, well, nothing much. Like, okay, well, have you got a new EMR system? Or have you gotten what? And once we start asking questions about where things are and how they're situated, oh, well, there have been a lot of changes since I last really thought about this. But that's the critical part of that game plan, and how that you have to continually do that.
Well, I even think it's good. I really love how you said that, because I think, to our physicians who may listen or watch, or the practice managers, like, I think you can approach it from outcome, as the first step. How do we create better outcomes for our patients? How do we create a better experience? And that can just trickle down. All right, well, if this is, for us as a company, I've been starting to say this, like, we're obsessed with helping businesses succeed by leveraging technology.
Right.
Well, that's the thing we want to do. But to do that, there's all kinds of things I have to do, and there's risks associated with me doing those things. Us as a company doing those things, and I have to figure out how to buttress those risks. So if the physician's like, hey, I'm a heart doctor, and my objective is to, or maybe it's oncology, and my objective is to really create dignity and honor and make the patient feel respected and loved and cared for while they go through this really horrific experience. Then that can then shape all these. Well, so what we want to do is do this in these rooms and TVs, and what risk does that introduce into the practice, and what technology is required to do that, and do we have to hire more people? And so I think there's a process that I want to implore these practices to think about, like, you can do this. And I understand that as a physician, like, you didn't go to medical school to be a business owner. I think by and large, they probably go to medical school because they were probably good at it, and they recognized a need, and they recognized that they want to help people.
Right.
And that's why they want to apply their trade. And you're right. They're probably like, I don't want to deal with all this other stuff. But dealing with all this other stuff can help you do what you're doing that much better.